I just feel like I had. Hitting the mic this time. Staff, are you ready?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to call to order the June 2nd, 2025 Richland County Planning Commission meeting. Staff, please confirm the following. In accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, a copy of the agenda was sent to the news media, persons requesting notification, and posted on the bulletin board located in the County Administration Building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thanks, staff. Can you please take attendance for today's meeting?
All right. Metz? Here. Johnson? Here. Grady?
Here.
Frierson?
Here.
Yonke?
Here.
Sirks?
Here.
Durant?
Here.
And just for the record, Taylor? Duffy. All right, you have a quorum.
Thank you, staff. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the June 2nd, 2025 Richland County Planning Commission meeting. As planning commissioners, we are concerned residents of Richland County who volunteer our time to thoroughly review and make recommendations to County Council. Our recommendations are to approve or deny zoning map amendment requests. Per Title VI, Chapter 29 of the SC Code of Laws, Planning Commission may also prepare and revise plans and programs for the development or redevelopment of unincorporated portions of the county. The county's land development code rewrite process conducted last year is an example of this. Once again, we are recommending body to County Council, and they will conduct their own public hearing and take official votes to approve or deny map amendments and text amendments on a future date to be published by the county. Council typically holds zoning public hearings on the fourth Tuesday of the month. Please check the county's website for updated agendas, dates, and times. Please take note of the following guidelines for today's meeting. Please turn off or silence any cell phones. Audience members may quietly come and go as needed. Applicants are allowed up to 2 minutes to make comments. Citizens signed up to speak are also allowed 2 minutes each. Redundant comments should be minimized. Please only address the remarks to the commission and do not expect the commission to respond to questions from the speaker in a back and forth style. This is not the purpose of this meeting. Please no audience speaker exchanges. No audience demonstrations or other disruptions to the meeting are permitted, nor are comments from anyone other than the speaker at the podium. Please remember the meeting is being recorded. Please speak into the microphone and give your name and address. Abusive language is inappropriate and will not be tolerated. Please do not voice displeasure or frustration and recommendation while the Planning Commission is still conducting business. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can contact our great Richland County planning staff here below. This moves us along on our agenda to number 3, which is additions or deletions to the agenda. Staff, do we have any today?
No, sir.
All right. Go ahead to number 4, which is approval of the minutes. Staff provided the commission with copies of the transcripts of the commission's May 2025 meeting minutes. Do commissioners have any comments or concerns regarding these transcripts? Okay, hearing and seeing none, the chair makes a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Durant. Thank you. Staff, can you please take a vote?
Those in favor of the approval of the May 5th, 2025 minutes? Yonke?
Aye.
Frierson?
Aye.
Johnson? Aye. Duffy?
Aye.
Metz?
Aye.
Durant?
Aye.
Taylor? Sirks?
Aye.
Grady?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, staff. This moves us on to number 5, which is our consent agenda. I like to explain the consent agenda. It's an action item that allows the commission to approve road names and map amendment requests where the staff recommends approval and no one from the public is signed up to speak against the amendment. Now, instead of staff approval, it's compliant to the comp plan. Or no member of the commission is in need of further discussion on the request. So our case number 1 in our agenda is deferred. So we'll leave that on the consent agenda as deferred. Case number 2 is compliant with the comp plan, and there's no one signed up to speak against it. So the chair makes a motion to pass the consent agenda with verifying there are no road names, yep. 5A and B, 1 and 2. Got a second? Who's that? All right, Commissioner Johnson. With a second for the consent agenda, can the staff please take a vote?
All right, those in favor of the consent agenda. And that would just be for the second case, correct? Case 25-021MA.
Yes, for approval.
All right, those in favor, Yonke,
Aye.
Frierson,
Aye.
Johnson, Duffy,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Sirks,
Aye.
Grady.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thanks, staff. This will move us right along to 5B3, case number 25-022, and I'll pass it to staff for more information.
All right, the first item is, case 25-022MA. The applicant is Josh Williamson. The applicant is requesting to rezone parcels, there'll be 3 parcels, along Bluff Road and Joe Louis Drive, which would be 1822 and 1838 Bluff Road and 1508 Joe Louis Road. Again, 8.16 acres from GC and R5 to MU3. It's been determined that the request is non-compliant with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. It does, according to the comprehensive plan, the mixed residential high-density designation provides that commercial and office development should be located approximate to or within activity centers and in mixed-use corridors. The subject parcels are not located in an activity center, nor are they located in a mixed-use corridor. Thus, again, the recommendation, based on the comprehensive plan, it's been determined, according to the comprehensive plan, that is non-compliant with the recommendations and objectives.
Thank you, staff. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Frierson, anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, we have Jarvis Morant.
Come on down, sir. Either podium is open. And start with your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Jarvis Morant. My address is 638 Sugar Hill Lane, 29201. I think my question was answered, that because it says it's non-compliant, it means it may not go through. But my concern would have been, with the changing of it, how would that really affect the community? Because I don't know how, right now it seems to be like commercial, and would that be able to allow more housing? But my understanding of mixed use means it would have to have certain things within all of it to be considered mixed use as far as building, correct? So I don't know if that was a question.
By the staff.
Yes, interject. It sounds like Mr. Morant.
Yes.
Is that correct? Sounds like he has some certain questions, and I believe that Councilwoman English, who represents this area, will have a town hall on this, and that will allow the applicant and the community to come in and actually have a little more dialogue regarding what is being proposed and what some of their concerns may be.
Do we have a date on that yet?
I don't have a date. I'll be happy to get your information and we
Okay.
can give you a call.
All right, thanks. That helps a lot.
And well, thanks for coming down today. Anyone else to speak? Ms. Frierson?
Mr. Morant was the only person who signed up to speak.
Right. As we discuss this is our recommendation to county council. Commission, this is on the floor for discussion. And questions again to staff. I always feel like I could read Commissioner Johnson's face, and then I want to hear from him.
Mr. Chairman, I think I was just, my face was struggling with the fact that we're gonna have the input meeting after our action, but I wasn't sure if the speaker understood that while that is staff's recommendation, we are charged with making a decision. So if you had a opinion one way or another, this is the time to do so.
Okay, thank
I
you.
just want to make sure the public had a chance
Exactly.
to express themselves.
Yes, excuse me, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, it is not staff's recommendation.
Yes.
It's
It's
just-
the recommendation of the comprehensive plan 2015, which we are renewing, working on for 2025.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Chairman, I stand corrected.
yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, as us volunteers, we care about our county. This is our opportunity to discuss this. So it's open on the floor. What are our thoughts about this? Staff, could you clarify some differences we would find on this parcel versus how it's zoned already? With it being mixed use, going from GC. My understanding is as you zone up, more uses are allowed. So does this actually restrict the lot a little bit?
So, of course, we try to include the table of permitted uses for what the current zoning is and also what the proposed zoning is also. In your packet, page 21 and page 22. Page 21 has the general commercial. I apologize, it looks like we don't have the R5 in currently for this, but we do have what the zoning designation, neighborhood mixed use MU3 allows. Maybe one of the, kind of in a nutshell, the general commercial is a little more open as far as the uses that it allows. You typically, you find those in some of your major corridors. Basically allows the whole gamut of commercial uses also. It allows for multifamily also. We kind of had a debate, discussion, regarding the MU3 zoning designation, which is new. And while it is designated as a neighborhood mixed-use district, I guess mixed use, I think Mr. Morant was, I think one of his questions was it doesn't have to be a mixed use development. That's just the title of the MU3 district. It can be a single use, as outlined on page 22 of your packet. But kind of going back, one of the things that we have noticed, with this district, the MU3, is that it allows for a higher density than the GC or any of our other commercial zoning designations as far as, for multifamily. There is no density cap. And also, there's no parking, and this is something we're gonna look to put in, but there are also no, just want to make sure I put that in there. Yes, there, on page 15 of your package, one of the things we pointed out, there's no minimum parking requirement for residential development in the MU3 designation. That's excluding a live-work dwelling or family group home or rooming and boarding house. So one of the things that we looked at, again, as a staff, we are still working with an older comprehensive plan, but new zoning, including new zoning categories. So sometimes trying to put them together, it could be a little difficult. But one of the things that was clear that we noticed is that this area was not within an activity center. And so when you start looking at uses where there's really not a cap on the density or number of units that you would be allowed, and also where there's no minimum parking requirement for use, we kind of look at that as being something more, I guess you could say more in an urban area or someplace where, higher density is meant to be more, I guess, maybe closer to the city of Columbia versus moving out more into the suburban and urban and rural areas of Richland County.
Thank you, staff. With MU3 and the equivalency table, when we updated the code, did it have an equivalency to the old code? Or was this a new zone?
Did you see? No, sir. It was a new zoning designation. And so, again, the difficulty trying to match a new zoning designation with an old comprehensive plan of where ideally it's been identified, the most appropriate location. It's a little difficult now, but hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have this addressed.
Okay, comments, questions from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I have 3 questions that go in 3 completely different directions, so staff, if you be patient with me. 1, did I miss the applicant?
No, sir, the applicant is not here. We did reach out, as we typically do, prior to the meetings to make sure they're aware of the meeting, but we have not received any heard back from the applicant, regarding their attendance or their inability to attend.
Other 2 questions. If you don't mind, just a little bit of context to, and I'm just going to ask them both at the same time and let you respond as you see fit. But under the zoning history, that second paragraph, that the GC parcel of the rezoning request rezoned from residential multifamily medium district under case number, and it gives 11017 MA. I'd be curious to get a little bit of context. I know you just talked about the older comprehensive plan and new zoning, but to understand the interplay of that change in relation to this request. And then the other question is, under parcel characteristics, south of the site, the last line is undeveloped MU1 district parcels. But when I look at the color coding of the map and look at the MU1, that doesn't match up.
I'm sorry, what page are you looking at, Mr. Johnson?
So on page 19, I will admit I'm colorblind, but the orange is MU1. But on page 15, the text under parcel area characteristics. I just don't see it. That's what-
What you're looking at is M1, not necessarily, not MU1. So on page 15, it's M1.
Oh, so that's a
Light
typo.
industrial.
So it's just a typo in the text. Okay, it's just a typo. Now, I'm not looking at the chart. Below the chart in the text, it just says MU. That's okay. I see it as a typo.
I just see M1, but
Yes, sir.
the pink parcel across from Blair Street.
Oh, I see it. I'm saying, but the text,
Oh, yeah,
the
it's okay.
text is, it's not, I mean, I'm good now. I understand.
You're correct. Good job. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Any other questions? Oh, okay.
Chairman, thank you.
Yes. It's on the floor. Discussion and a motion as well. Anyone has any motions?
No, I'm sorry, it is correct, what you're looking at. So you're looking at the zoning history is on page 14, which states that the general commercial parcel immediately southwest of the sites on Bluff Road will rezone from neighborhood mixed use MU1 under case 2404. So those parcels that you see southwest of this, they were formerly MU1, but now they're general commercial.
So for all my mapping GIS friends out there, map on page 19 is correct. The colors are correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Further discussion, commissioners, or a motion? Based from the staff information, this MU3 seems to be a catch-all without so many rules, it seems like, parking and density and whatnot. I'm not sure if it fits in the area. I want to state a motion, and we could see which way it goes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Sirks?
I'd make a motion to forward case number 25-022MA to County Council with a recommendation of disapproval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Metz? Correct? Yes. Okay, staff, we have a motion for disapproval with a second. So can you please take a vote?
As stated, we have a motion for disapproval of case 25-022MA. Those in favor of the motion, Grady,
Aye.
Sirks,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Duffy,
Aye.
Johnson, Frierson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff. This is a short night for item number 5 on our agenda. We are moving ahead to item 6, which is overlay. This is an action item, so we do have a sign-up sheet. We have staff present and then have the public speak. That's usually how we do this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good
Thank you.
afternoon. Just following up from our last meeting last month when we had the work session, we went through the comments that were received from additional residents in the area and all of the additional comments and the changes that were made to the overlay district based off of those comments. So in your packet, you have the draft that we went through during the work session. But if you also remember, in May, you made a motion to accept the comments that were discussed and the changes that were made during the work session and have a clean copy brought before you this month for your final recommendation, unless there are additional questions that you may have. I also like to point out that if approved tonight, the recommendation will go to council, and council will still again have the opportunity to hold any additional town halls or work sessions or public meetings they may like to have. They have to go through the final 3 readings and approvals before it would be final. So again, tonight, this will just be a recommendation that will go to county council, and they still have the opportunity to make any additional comments. The question came up last month as well about adding tree protection to the ordinance, the overlay. We did go back and discuss that a little bit more internally. Although we do understand the need to protect the trees, and we do appreciate the comments received related to that. Based off our current staffing levels, and with this being the first overlay district, it would be a challenge to try to add additional tree protections with the current overlay. We do believe this should be a separate tree protection ordinance that could be fully vetted and looked at how we actually could implement that successfully. And we are open to continue to meet with the neighborhood and residents to talk about a different method to try to handle any tree protections and keep the overlay specifically to the architectural standards. So I did want to touch on that specifically because I know that came up as an additional comment when we met last month. And so if you have any specific questions, we can do that, or if you would like us to go through some of the comments that we received and the changes that were made from the work session, we'd be willing to do that or answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you, staff. Commissioners, do we have any questions as we get going on this?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Just a question. You said it's, I think you found it'll be a better course of action to have a separate tree ordinance done regarding protection of trees in the Olympia district. Is that gonna happen? How much time between the approval of this overlay district and any tree ordinance being drafted and approved? How much time would that be between the two?
I do not have a timeline with that. That's why I said we'd be willing to continue to work with the residents in the area and talk about that, because we do have some staffing constraints right now. And also, we still need to continue to work on building up the advisory committee and the internal procedures related to the current overlay. And so it would be challenging to also include the landscaping. So that's why it would have to be a separate project, and because we don't have a timeline related to the separate project right now. So I don't want to say it'll be adopted at the same time council would adopt the overlay district. It would have to be a separate project that we look at.
Is there any risk that trees will start coming down before you have a chance to put a tree ordinance into effect?
Obviously, there would still be potentially a risk if somebody wanted to go out there and cut a tree. We have certain protections related to new development that are out there, but if we try to incorporate the tree protection standards in the overlay now, that's something we can continue to go back, but it would just further delay getting the architectural protections in place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Shall we go through some of the edits for the public and anything that might be new?
Yes, we can go through that.
Sure.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Ryder Hoover.
All right, so I can go through some of the main changes that have happened throughout the course of developing the overlay. The changes most recently made were the ones based off of the work session that we just had, so there won't be anything new for the Planning Commission, but I'll just kind of go through the different aspects that just review what we did in the work session last month, and that we made a number of just language changes. These are all highlighted in your packet in the bluish aqua color. The changes regarding setbacks, as well as making the overlay more strictly corresponding to the bounds of what is visible from the right-of-way. So any language that was previously in the overlay that we felt overstepped the bounds of restricting or protecting the facade and what's visible from the right-of-way was changed there, as well as including some oversights, such as existing historic housing styles that were not explicitly included in the draft previously. The example I'm mainly referring to as far as roof shapes, and that there are hipped roof shapes on historic houses in the neighborhood. beyond that, one of the other notable changes, I believe this happened before the previous work session, but as far as materials, it was a concern from Planning Commission previously that as long as the visible characteristics of materials used to repair or build any structures, as long as those materials visually looked a historic style, we removed any restrictions to that would be require specific materials. And I believe that those are the main highlights. Like I said, these were discussed in the work session, and so you can see in our you can see the changes throughout in the version that you have with the edits, and then the clean version has all of the changes and edits that Planning Commission has seen and developed in the work session previously.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners? Moment, Frierson? Let's open it up to the public for.
We have Ms. Vi Hindley.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Appreciate your time. My name is Vi Henley. I live at 104 Alabama Street, Olympia, South Carolina, 29201. I want to remind the Commission and staff that we do have a 6-month moratorium in place. And we have concerns primarily about the fact that when you add to a historic structure, you're changing the historic view shed of the neighborhood. And I didn't know anything about view sheds until I started kind of delving into it. But essentially, if you had a house that from the street was just one room, and then in the back of the house, all of a sudden you have something jutting out the back or rising up above it, you've taken away the original look of the neighborhood. Granby, Whaley are city neighborhoods. They have these protections in their historic overlays or their historic protections so that the actual footprint of the house remains the same. And so you drive through Granby and many houses have been renovated and many houses house adequate numbers of students for profit for landlords, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a new build and an old build because they all look exactly the same and they didn't allow for modifications that would alter greatly the shape or the view shed of the neighborhood. I want to appreciate your time considering staff the tree protections. I'm hopeful that perhaps with the rewrites, folks will be taking that more seriously because as we lose trees, we're going to get hotter, we're going to lose clean water, and I really appreciate the time that you all spent on that. Thanks so very much for your consideration.
Thank you for your participation in this. I'll sign up to speak.
No.
Okay. Our objective tonight is a recommendation to County Council. We could approve the draft or defer the draft, but when we do that, we would ask for more edits to be made. Or I guess we could reject it all entirely after all this work, right? So Commission, do we have any motions or discussion about what we want to do?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Grady?
thank you. I would like to give staff the opportunity to comment on the member of the public who just spoke, because the concerns that she expressed about a building footprint, being higher than the pre-existing building or jutting out to an extended degree, it was certainly my impression from reading the overlay language that would not be permitted. Would that be an accurate assessment or not?
So it is accurate to an extent. Our language, while restricted to the right-of-way, as far as an addition jutting out, any additions would have to be to the rear of the property, and it would have to either be flush with the current side of the structure, or it would have to recess in. So as far as the building footprint as visible from the right-of-way, you wouldn't see any structure jutting out from the historic facade.
And based on the visual instruction from said member of the public, there's not the ability to build an expansion of the home that is substantially taller than the existing property, correct?
We do have a specific line in the overlay, and that is that if a historic home is of a building type that is 1 story, they could have a 2-story addition in the rear, and 2 stories would be the limit, and the roof line would need to be as low as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Grady. That is enough of a visual that make the original property look different. You have a 1-story front and a 2-story back.
I'll jump in a little bit too. If
Yes,
you remember
Steph.
from the last, the work session too, we talked about going from different Old Hill types from the 1-story to 2-story. It still has to match the architectural look of and feel of the architectural style of the neighborhood as well. So if it can be visible from the right of way and they're going from a 1-story Old Hill type to a 2-story Old Hill type, it still has to match the architectural look and feel of that housing type.
Okay, I have a question. What if we, for an example, use this draft and said someone came in and wanted to do that? Where do we refer them and say, oh, this works with the overlay or this doesn't?
We're
What
putting
part of it?
together an architectural review board. I'm sorry for cutting you off. but
That's
yes.
okay, go ahead, staff, thank you.
My
That
apologies.
was open-ended.
But we are working to put together architectural review board. So any additions, any demolitions, those would have to go in front of the architectural review board to make sure that they meet the architectural requirements in the overlay district. We're working right now to look at individuals who could potentially fill the slots for that review board, and council would have to appoint individuals on that board as well.
Further discussion, commission? Or a motion?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
For staff. On page 27, section 3D2, I see we marked out, and I remember this discussion we had last month, we marked out the section that said the building footprint of a new build shall reflect that of the house across the street if that house is a historic building. So with that struck, are there guidelines for how new builds should look with respect to the historic pattern of the neighborhood?
Yes, sir. So we will have a guide of what specific housing types are in the different parts of the neighborhood. While we won't have the restriction of a historic home needing to match the one across the street, we do still have the restriction of not having building types side by side. So we are trying to maintain the rhythm and the character of the neighborhood, at least on that particular side of the block, but we won't restrict any any builder to a specific home type because it's across the street or there's a specific house across the street from them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. Good discussion. What else, Commission? Hearing nothing else, this is when we look at a motion. What does this mean for the 6-month moratorium? Is that true?
The moratorium is in place for 6 months since council's third reading. I'm sorry, that date eludes me at this moment, or until they have third and final reading on the overlay. So if the overlay is approved before the 6 months are up, then the moratorium will be lifted. If the overlay is not approved, it'll stay in place until that 6-month date, which does give council still time to work on it. So like I said before, if you do make the recommendation to move it forward, if members of council have any additional questions, comments, concerns, that still gives them enough time to bring back their comments related to the ordinance as well.
Well, I understand. Even if we push this through, there's still time with council with this moratorium, correct?
Correct. The moratorium remains in place until the overlay has third and final reading approved by county council.
Public sessions.
Yes, they will also have their public meetings, and if they choose to have a town hall like they do with the rezone request, then we would obviously entertain that as well.
Thank you, staff, for your hard work on this. We've walked through this and created a pretty solid draft. Unless we want any other edits to the draft, I feel like it might be time to pass this forward to county council. But I'd like to hear the thoughts of my commission on that. Head nods, but no words. Okay.
Sure.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Commissioner Durant, go ahead.
And I apologize, staff, if what I say now means I just haven't read enough detail of what you put here. But what is the protection against new builds, be it somebody coming in with a new build and making a contemporary house there that's totally outside of the style of the neighborhood?
So for the most part, that would not be allowed, but with any new build, it would go before the Board of Architectural Review that we're putting in place. And so the board would interpret the overlay that we have to determine whether whatever style that a builder is planning to put in the neighborhood, that it fits within the guidelines of the overlay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Question, Commissioner Johnson? Comment?
I'm not bringing, I am prepared to advance this on. I'm not proposing additional questions, or changes, but commissioners, or the response to the commissioner's question just raised implementation concerns. As someone who goes before Board of Architectural Review on a regular basis, and we talked about the windows a few months ago, but the way that it's written, it says, and I'm grossly paraphrasing, but to, as much as possible, emulate or something similar. And I will say that board is going to, there's not a lot of guidance other than just saying or similar. And so you leave to interpretation the members that are on that board at that particular point in time as to whether or not the or similar is sufficient versus the original materials. And in other jurisdictions, those boards can exercise a lot of power without specific constraints as to, or guidelines as to how that's to be done. So I just raised that as a point of concern.
Good point, Commissioner Johnson. Great, I see a lot of head nods. Any thoughts?
I would say I think I broadly agree with both your remarks, Mr. Chair, and from my colleague to my right. I definitely would agree that there is a risk here, and we do not want to have an instance of government overreach. So that's certainly a concern, but I would also be inclined to move this forward. So I can make a motion to that effect if that is in the interest of the group.
I'll have a question for staff. Is there any other things we could do about this review board before we pass a recommendation to county council? Is there anything within our guidelines as the planning commission that could help steer the creation of this, or any words in this draft? You said or similar is a one that can cause some issues.
Well, we are working on the guidebook, which is based very heavily off of the architectural standards that were originally presented that we used before drafting the ordinance. So one of my goals is to take the design standards and the architectural standards along with the recommendations for how the board should be set up to council so that they can also review it at the same time while we're going through the ordinance overlay voting process, so that they can set up the board, see what the guidelines will be at the same time. If that's something planning commission wants to see, then you would potentially defer your vote until that all is put together and brought back to you to review as well. But I don't know if, I can't speak to a regulatory requirement for that.
I have a suggestion, maybe one of my commissioners, as we make our recommendation. Usually if we go against the comp plan on something, we have to have some sort of statement to go along with that. Maybe we approve or deny, and then have a statement that goes with it to county council that, please address this concern of this architectural review board. Do you think either one of Commissioner Grady, Commissioner Johnson could make that statement in their motion? Follow me?
I could, but I am not a real estate developer, so I feel like I would be a bit out of my depth.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, as someone who goes above to a lot of these review boards, you think I have just a couple of words? I'd say, for instance, if we said let's approve, and with this approval, we would like whatever.
Council to take careful consideration of the guidelines that are provided to the architectural review board so that there's some consistency in how those are being implemented.
That's a motion for approval?
That would be in support of a motion to approve item 6A overlay districts, 6A and B for the Olympia neighborhood character overlay map amendment and text amendment. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Staff, did you catch all of that? That's a second from Commissioner Grady. Did you write down that lovely statement? Thank you. I almost forget that we have minutes and then all this gets typed out.
I paraphrased in my notes.
Thank you. You got it? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion for approval of the overlay and the map, A and B, and a second from Commissioner Grady. So staff, please take a vote.
Yonke,
Aye.
Frierson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Duffy,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Taylor, Sirks,
Aye.
Grady.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, staff, for all the hard work on that. And this goes as recommendation approval to county council, so the public can hear. They're still going to have public input, and the process continues. Thank you. All right. Breath. On to number 7. Number 7 on our agenda today is 2025 Land Development Code updates. We have an A and a B. So I'll flip this over to staff so we take this apart correctly. And then I know we have names signed up to speak.
The first item was an amendment to table 26-4.2B and section 26-4.2D25, manufactured homes of the Richland County Land Development Code. This came before you wanted this to be deferred during that time, so it's back before you. So basically, when we were doing we were looking to adopt the current land development code, it was decided to go with the equivalency of the current zoning, to which matches the new zoning designations of our code. And so it was determined that the MH district, which is manufactured housing, the most equivalent zoning designation under our new code would be the R3. And a lot of that discussion was really based on the lot sizes. The lot sizes, with the minimum lot size in the MH3 is basically the equivalent of what we have in our R3 at this time. But one of the things we didn't take into consideration were the land uses. And so the MH district, of course, manufactured housing, it allowed manufactured housing, but it also allowed for stick-built homes also, as we like to term it. But it allowed for, like I stated, it allowed for manufactured housing. But when we adopted the code, the R3 district does not allow for manufactured housing. So, we are aware, as we had some discussion regarding how to correct this, because what you have are certain areas of the county in which were primarily developed under the old MH designation, that there's primarily a manufactured housing community, subdivision, neighborhood, just however community, whichever you want to use, but they're basically all manufactured homes. So we're trying to find a way to make this work. We looked at a couple of options, but it was decided that to allow manufactured homes in the R3, provided that there are manufactured homes on lots that comprise 50% or more of the lots on the same side of the block as the lot in question. I mean, the thinking was, if they're already 50% of the homes, the lots on that block are comprised of manufactured homes, the likelihood is that's what's going to be placed there. Not to offend or anything, but typically you aren't going to find a community of manufactured homes and someone builds a house next to it. So that's one of the reasons we went with that option. So that's what you have before you today. We did take into consideration, and I believe you raised this, Commissioner Yonke, and that was something that during the adoption of the current land development code, we were initially going away from what was deemed single-family designations. And within the R2, R3, R4 designations and so on, you would be able to do a variety of housing types, from manufactured housing, duplexes, triplexes, those type of uses. I know there was a good bit of pushback from the community regarding that. So it was decided by the Planning Commission and ultimately adopted by council to just go back to the single-family designations. So again, one of the things that we ended up leaving out was what happened to the previous MH district. Some of the things that we could have actually done was create a new zoning destination. We could have created a whole new MH district, or whichever term we want to use it, but then that would have required us to go back through the whole process. We would have had to identify parcels, basically do a whole rezoning throughout the county. That was one of the options that we had. But we found that this was probably based on what has come before us, what we have seen, what we've discussed with people, that this is probably the best approach. But that's what you have before you now.
Thank you, staff. speak on some of that in the past because that was part of the rewrite process.
Exactly.
We were just taking into account what came before us from the public as we walked through that as early as COVID and our Zoom meetings, the original time, then through coming back in here and taking it on the shelf, like Mr. Jensen would like to say, and going through the rewrite. So I know we looked at a lot of the equivalency table and looking at the land development code that way. Staff, could you pull up the map? I see you have a tab there, so we can visualize. Is it called the Royal Pines neighborhood? That's kind of a good example. All right.
I'm sorry, one of the things that we did look at, and I apologize because I don't have it here in front of us at this time. I know there's some concern about, having an area that happens to be zone R3, and now everybody's just gonna put a whole bunch of manufactured homes there. And that may open it up. There aren't many areas in the county that are zone R3 that haven't been developed. For example, Mr. Smith, he pulled up just the northwest part of the county of all of the parcels that were zone R3, and they were all developed. So there's not a chance that someone could wait. And I know this is a little frightening for some people. Again, Commissioner Yonke, you went through this process, and Ms. Frierson, you were also a part of this also, where somebody wakes up one morning and you're in your single family community, you look outside and there's a use that you weren't expecting to be there. I don't think in this particular case that if someone is in an existing residential community of homes that, as we term them stick-built homes, that to meet the criteria to establish a manufactured home, that's not going to occur. Again, you have to have at least 50% of the lots on the block have to be developed with manufactured homes. So in the case, if the property was on R3 and somebody was gonna put a manufactured home there, that means that area is already comprised of manufactured homes, so it wouldn't be something brand new introduced into an area.
Correct, I understand. Mind turn on the zoning layer just for a minute for the map? This area that staff zoomed into is R3. And then when you zoom in, it's a good example. There's about 10 lots between each street.
Yes, sir.
And when you look at it, some that have manufacturing homes already, it's about 50%. So if someone came into an empty lot, which is near like the middle of your map right now, and wanted to put a manufactured home there, this would be a location where under special, was a special requirement?
Yes, sir.
That the comprehensive plan, or not the zoning would recommend approval.
Yes, sir.
Right?
It would
Thank
be
you.
a permitted use subject to special requirements.
Exactly. I'm trying to walk it through for the staff because I do want to stand on what we did last month or the month before, where we asked for deferment to give more time for public input. Anytime we're looking at adjusting the land development code, I want to make sure there's time for public input since I've been through all that.
Yes.
Thank you. So yeah, walk us through an example here if you can.
Okay, so I think, I really need this. All right, so what you have before you, it just is kind of like the classic example of what we're dealing with. So this is the Royal Pines subdivision. Kind of help you out here. Right. So the area in the green that you see here, this is the Royal Pines subdivision. And over here is the Woodlands. So this is a good example. And this is the Woodlands Green subdivision next to it. This happened to be zone R4, so this wouldn't apply. But right now, if someone came in and they had a parcel in the Royal Pine subdivision, and they wanted to place a manufactured home there, under our current code as written, we would deny that application, because the code clearly states in the R3, manufactured homes are prohibited. So they would be forced to, if they were going to occupy that from a residential standpoint, they would have to actually build a home. Construct a new home, as we like to say, stick-built home, on that parcel. Again, typically not a practical use of land, when the two residential uses are really not typically need to be compatible, especially in an area like this. But, we're just gonna use this as an example.
So if you turned off the zoning and zoomed in, you see there's some mixed uses of R3 here already. We have manufactured homes, stick-built.
Yes, sir. So, basically everything here is R3 in this area. Now, this is what you have next on this section, and let me put on the subdivision layer. This section of the Woodlands Glen subdivision is also zone R3. However, none of the lots here will qualify for a manufactured home. Again, 50% of the lots on the block would have to be comprised of manufactured homes. So we will feel pretty safe that this ordinance doesn't just open it up for uses that some people would deem to be incompatible.
Thank you, staff. I like that example. Commissioners, any questions off of this discussion? No? Okay, I'm ready to open it up to the public. Commissioner Frierson?
Kim Murphy.
Good evening. I know you approved a amendment at
Please
the
start with
April
your name
meeting.
and address.
Oh, this is, yeah, okay. When does this go to council? Because I don't know that the April one did, but Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane, Chapin, South Carolina. If you could answer that question at some point, that'd be great. First of all, I'm opposed to using the block as the guide, and I actually have three options that I think would be better, since there is this quandary, is take back that legacy MH zoning. Anything that was MH, everyone knew was going to have either a stick-built or a manufactured home. If that's too much work, but it seems like the easy way out, then if the lot was previously zoned MH, allow for a mobile home. And then the least desirable for me is to expand it instead of just one block on one side of the street. It's the whole street on both sides, or 50% of the subdivision. There was an issue, a woman brought up at the April meeting, that her subdivision, which was zoned MH, and it's now R3, the MH allowed for mobile homes, and there are mobile homes, and stick-built homes, and there are a lot of vacant lots there. She wanted to place a mobile home on the lot, but she can't now because of the orientation that's required in R3. You can't have a front-facing, there's not room to have a front-facing mobile home, but when it's zoned MH, it can be turned so that the end is facing the road. So I think that neither the property owners whose property was for stick-built should suffer, and neither should the families whose property was MH should suffer. I think there should be a better delineation between the two. I think we had discussion with Geo that, potentially they could ask for a variance to be able to allow for their home to be placed front-facing. But I don't think that's the way to go. I think that if it was once MH, allow it to be MH, it resolves the orientation problem, it resolves allowing mobile homes. Was that my time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kima Smith.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Yakima Smith. My address is 13 Maganza Court, 29203. I'm talking in particular of the neighborhood of Heron Ridge. I built the house out there like 5 years ago. It may be 10 homes out there, but the majority of the neighborhood is mobile homes. There's no mobile home that is uniform. It's only about 10 lots that are left out there. When I bought this property, it was zoned for mobile home, and to get that change or taken right from up under me, it was very disappointing. And the lots are not big enough to, like, for the front door to face a road. So if it did get approved, I would hope that would not be a stipulation, because the lots are not big at all. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Just before, the area that the speaker was referring to, that's currently R3?
Heron Ridge, they changed it. I'm not sure. I know it's on a standstill. You can't put a mobile home there, but when I was buying the property, it was.
You would need to come back to the podium so we could hear you. Thank you. And maybe we would direct that question to staff.
It was always zoned mobile homes in the neighborhood Heron Ridge, which is off of Dubar Boys. You guys can look up the map if you like. But it's majority of trailers out there. I don't understand, like, why stopping the last 10 lots for putting a mobile home. I don't know what difference that would make, or why they changed it.
But will staff help me, if her statement regarding the current zoning is correct, that's not applicable for what we're doing here, right?
Give me a cross street. What's the street that staff can search on the map?
Merganser, Peregrine. I live
Okay.
on Merganser. Peregrine is behind Merganser, which I own 2 lots on that
Okay.
street.
Thank you. Let's look at it on the map.
Please.
Good. 'Cause this is what I requested when we began the conversation. Let's look at some examples. Any final thoughts in your 2 minutes? Because I want to give you your time.
I just hope we can reach a decision today. I've been waiting like 7 months.
Thank you. I'll ask you to go take a seat then.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to be fair to everybody. Appreciate you. Thank you. Which zoning is this, staff? Yeah, that's what I was. Zoning colors. Staff, go ahead, talk us through this. If someone came in, wanted to build a manufactured home here, under this new special requirement, what would the guidance be?
It would be the same. We will look at on that, what we would deem to be a block. And if there are at least 50% of the homes on that block that are comprised of manufactured homes, they would be able to place one there. If one is not there, if it doesn't meet that criteria, then they wouldn't be able to put it, I think parts of this area do have sections that are primarily, single-family residential homes, and others have the manufactured homes, so the criteria will still be the same. They would have to meet at least 50% on that, on a block. Where's that coming from?
Thank you, staff. Where the map is now, I see 2 homes. I can't tell from the aerial if it's stick-built or manufactured in that block. 4, 6, that's like 10 lots right there. So it's not developed yet. What would you recommend? Again, if the request was someone to build a manufactured home in that block that were pointed at Egret and Heron, and please, don't make me pronounce this. Peregrine Court? Thank you, thank you. So in that block?
Yes, so what you're looking at, there's a chance that on one side that you may be able to put manufactured homes, and on the other side, you might not be able to.
It's on both sides.
I'm just, you may run into those instances, but, I mean, to be consistent with, if this ordinance is passed, then that may be the case.
If the ordinance is passed, this doesn't come back to the planning commission if somebody wanted to build manufactured home there, because it's gonna have a special requirement. Would that be a Board of Zoning Appeals or just no issue?
The only time it will go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I think that was, Ms. Murphy, kind of raised a point. If there was a bit of, the inability to meet the orientation, requirements, due to the configurations of the lot, then they could go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and potentially ask for a variance, from that provision. So that's one option. And then there may be some cases where if they don't meet the requirements for, 50% of the lots being developed with manufactured homes on a block, there may be another option. In some cases, it may be for rezoning, to a zoning designation, that would allow manufactured homes.
That's how it would come back to us. Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Price, when we had the conversation the last time on this subject, I had a question that was on my mind, and it's still on my mind, and the first speaker raised it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask it, but I feel kind of like third grader asking this question, but why the distinction of based on the side of the block as opposed to the block in itself? Help me understand, what's the rationale or what's the approach saying on that side of the block?
So I think this is kind of a good example. And you may find some, maybe on one side, and you don't, this doesn't occur very often, but you may actually have on the opposite side of the road, for example, they could be primarily stick-built homes. And on the other side, it would just be manufactured homes. The reason why we talked about the block was to provide a level of consistency of what that section of an area is developed.
I understand at the block level, but I'm saying, but when you split the difference between the left side versus the right side or north or south side of the block.
At the same as saying the same side of the street.
Correct, I'm sorry, yes, same side of the street. I apologize, thank you. I
Yeah, thank
misspoke.
So,
Yeah, same side of the street. I misspoke.
So I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson, with understanding, we try to come up with language, and bring it before you, but this isn't something we're saying, hey, take our language and either approve it or deny it. We would like to have good discussion, and if there's a point that you feel may be more appropriate for what we're proposing, we just ask that you bring that forward, and then we may be happy to incorporate that into language going forward.
In my case, if in fact, for example, E1 said manufactured homes are permitted where there are manufactured homes on lots that comprise 50% or more of the block as the lot in question.
Commissioner Johnson, as you're stating, if some of these words were omitted, that would work better for this text amendment, is what we're suggesting.
Intuitively, that's what my thought process, but that's why I was trying to ask the question, what was the rationale? I'm trying to get understanding as to what the rationale for adding in the clause that says on the same side of the block.
You mean as opposed to taking out the word block, essentially?
It's supposed to taking out on the same side.
Yeah.
Let's speak to the mics, commissioners, and sidebar less, because this is a good discussion. So Commissioner Johnson, did you speak everything you want
I'm
to
just
say?
trying to make sure that I'm making sense, because, I mean, because it depends on, the determining factor depends on, it seems in some of these situations is, if you're on this side of the street, you might be able to, and if you're on this side of the street, you might not. And you could be in the same block. So I was just trying to, I'm not saying that my language would be better than what the language is here. I'm just trying to understand why we added which side of the street we're on as the determinant.
Yeah. I mean,
Understand?
Because if a community is mixed, if there's half and half, it's half and half. If 3/4 are on this side of the street and 1/4 on this side of the street, I mean, the feel of the neighborhood is still mixed.
Okay, how would you, I mean, and I'm asking you to do our work for us, but how would you amend this language that you have this before you?
Just striking between, basically on the same side of. So it's just basically whether or not the manufactured homes comprise more than 50% of the lots. Or more, 50% or more.
Staff is very receptive to that change.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I've got a comment over here from Commissioner Durant.
Just a clarification, what is the definition being used for block?
It's pretty standard. Our code reads it, if it's not defined within our code, then we go with the standard dictionary meaning.
Okay.
Block, as defined by the Richland County Land Development Code, is a unit of land bounded by roads or by a combination of roads and public land, railroad right-of-way, waterways, or any other barrier to the continuity of development.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Duffy.
question for staff. Just on the block point, why are we, where it says 50% or more of the block, why are we not saying, just to, on the points raised earlier, why is it not 50% of the entire block or 50% of the entire subdivision? Why would we not tighten up the language in that respect?
Again, this was our initial approach to it, and again, whichever, if the planning commission can help offer an alternative to this language, as a staff, we're more than receptive to that. Stated previously, there was a lot of discussion that went on during the adoption of the land development code about certain uses being allowed in certain designations. And so maybe we were just looking at ways to provide extra layers of protection. But if there's, as I'm hearing from some, Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Duffy, maybe language may be a little bit too restrictive in some way, and that we should amend it. And again, the staff is very receptive to that.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Anyone else before I try to read this the way I hear that the way I'm picking it up? Okay. So this would be, someone would make a motion for deferment because staff would need to rewrite so the public has a chance to hear it.
Excuse me, we can easily make this change and take this to council. It won't go to council until July, but, it's, it's just, we deem this to be more of an edit. There's something that it needs to come back and, go through a whole public meeting process.
Very touchy piece of the land development code that we survived. Okay, so if it read, manufactured homes are permitted where they are manufactured homes on the lots that comprise 50% of the subdivision, would that be sufficient for this special permit for R3?
Well, Commissioner
anyone from
Duffy,
the
it said
commission?
of the block or the subdivision.
Of the block
Or of the subdivision.
or of the subdivision?
Correct.
I think just to add it,
Duffy, go ahead.
I think I said the entire block or whatever, just to make sure we're clear on.
Entire block.
Yeah, if it's,
Okay, Commissioner Duffy, you phrased that so well. We're gonna have you state it. But first, discussion from the commission. We don't want to get pushed into anything. We would feel comfortable making a recommendation of approval if we edited the text. Is that what I'm hearing? I feel like we could discuss that point. I see a head nods. All right. Okay, Commissioner Duffy, can you make that as an motion of approval with, in those words, and make sure staff picks up on it correctly?
So, Mr. Chair, I would go ahead and make a motion for table 226.42B under the manufactured homes. The point one, manufactured homes are permitted where there are manufactured homes on lots that comprise, should be 50% of the entire block or street or 50% of the subdivision. And I may have missed something there, but I think that's.
Do we have a second on Commissioner Duffy's motion?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Grady. Staff, did you pick up on that edit?
Yes, sir.
Read it back to us and then take a vote. Thank you.
Excuse me, manufactured homes, the language is amended, would read, manufactured homes are permitted where there are manufactured homes on lots that comprise 50% of the entire block or subdivision.
Motion with the second, so please, that's correct. Go ahead and take the vote.
All right, those in favor of the motion for the approval of seven A, which is the amendment to table 26-4.2B and section 26-4.2D25 manufactured homes. Those in favor? Grady,
Aye.
Serks. Oh, Durant,
Aye.
Metz, Duffy,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Frierson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
That motion passes.
Okay, for members of the public, that goes as a recommendation of approval with that edited text for county council, where they will have a public meeting, correct? What do they call it?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Yes, and because it's a text amendment, we give a 30-day notice, so this won't appear at the June zoning public hearing, but it will go before council at the July zoning public hearing.
Thank you, staff. Thank you for helping us walk through that. We are still in item 7, but now 7B.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the input from the planning commission. So next item is, and hopefully this is a little simpler, but the next item is a proposed amendment to section 26-4.2D2A2, dwellings, townhouse. I will give you kind of a simple version of this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Our current code requires any parcel created in the in the R6 zoning designations, the minimum lot size the minimum lot width is 50 feet. And so while that may work for single-family homes or maybe even duplexes or triplexes, when you're doing townhomes, essentially what that's also saying is that your townhome the structure itself must be 50 feet in width, which goes really against what a townhome is. Townhomes typically go between 18 to 24, 25 feet in width. So in a nutshell, that provision of the code that requires a minimum of 50 feet for each parcel. And remember, when you're doing a townhome, you are creating individual parcels, even though the units are attached. Essentially, it eliminates the ability to be able to do a townhome unless you do a rear alley that's associated with it. And also, We also included some additional provisions that if a rear alley was developed as part of the townhome development, that it also amended the setbacks. Just let you know, this language isn't something that staff just sat around and said, hey, let's try to create some additional language for the townhomes. Again, when we adopted the current land development code, we only took out certain provisions of the existing townhome ordinance, or at least the townhome ordinance that was in place prior to, I guess, the 2015 version, excuse me, the 2005 version of our land development code. So we basically just took some of the language that was missing as far as it addressed setbacks, lot width, minimum lot area, and also building footprint requirements, and just carried that over to our current code. And those are outlined on page 43, under proposed amendment overview. Basically tells you what the new regulations would be.
Staff, as you just, this tax that existed in the 2005 code?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, the current code didn't give a minimum lot area, which we're introducing a minimum lot width. Again, it did give a minimum lot width, but it was 50 feet. So what we were proposing is to have a minimum lot width that's specific for townhomes, and also introduced setbacks, other than the traditional setbacks that typically apply to more single-family type developments or other type residential uses. And also, it also established what a minimum building footprint, excuse me, a maximum building footprint.
This has nothing to do with zero lot lines. I see
This has
5 feet.
This has absolutely nothing to do with zero lot lines.
Okay, just for clarity.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, staff. Questions, commissioners? Hearing none, they're deep in thought. We had one sign-up sheet, the land development code updates, and I know someone wanted to speak again. So, Commissioner Frierson, would you read off the name again? And anyone else who may have wanted to on this topic, we'll give them 2 minutes. Kim Murphy she wrote that she wanted to come down, have 2 minutes on this one.
Kim Murphy.
Thank you. State your name and address again.
Yes,
Ms.
thank
Murphy.
you.
Thank
Kim
you.
Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane. I would ask that you defer this like you did with the mobile home proposed amendment, to give us a chance to understand it. This was, I guess it was Friday that the packet was published, so we learned of it, and there really wasn't a good explanation. We have some of an explanation now, which is helpful. Now I can go back and do some homework. The other thing is, in the agenda packet, there were 2 other provisions related to R5 and R6, but they weren't listed on the agenda. So I don't quite understand why they were in the packet. So on the agenda, you list one code section, but in the packet itself, you have 2 other sections with amendments on them, with the red and the strike through, and so I couldn't understand what was the purpose of those.
Any other comments, Ms. Murphy?
No, but
Thank you.
I'd
We will
love for you
discuss
to
this.
defer it so I can get a better understanding.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. I noticed on page 44 and page 45, we have staff explain it, but it's our residential 5 district and residential 6, and this is where townhomes would fall into, correct? So
Actually,
that's why you see section 26-4.2 would be added to these pages.
yes,
Right?
yes, sir. So section 26-3.3H and 26-3.3I. this is where we included the provision, for the townhome, development standards.
Questions, concerns? Commission? Anyone in public in the audience here who hasn't signed up to speak on this wanted to? Okay. Seeing anyone? The public part of this will be completed, and now it's commission on the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Grant.
I have a question for staff. In the edits for the townhouse dwelling, in part F, it says the building footprint of the principal structure shall not cover more than 50% of the lot area. What was the thought process that went into that number, 50% of the lot area?
Again, that was kind of a carryover from, previous code. I would have to go back to when we first adopted this, just kind of picked from other jurisdictions and how they applied, their standards for townhomes. And essentially what it does is you still provide a certain area for, if the minimum lot area is 1,500, then what that allows you to put a certain size townhome or structure, but at the same time, it also leaves a yard in the rear and the front, versus someone coming in and building directly to the setback lines.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Thank you, staff.
And again, I want to make sure I point out that if the planning commission were to take action on this, this won't appear before council until July, the end of July, the fourth Tuesday. So there'll be plenty of time for people to have a chance to look at this and review it.
Bless you. Thoughts, Commission? Or Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no objection from anyone, so I'd go ahead and move agenda item 7, Land Development Code Update, Action 7B, Section 26-4.2D 2A on dwelling townhouse, as a recommendation to affirmatively approval for council.
Did you say deferment or approval?
Approval.
Oh, approval. Okay. Okay, we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, okay, Commissioner Metz with the second. All right, staff. Motion for approval with the second.
All right, we have a motion.
This text amendment, please take a vote.
Motion of approval for item 7B, for townhome dwellings. Those in favor of the motion, Grady,
Aye.
Sirks, it's not here, Durant,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Duffy,
Aye.
Johnson, Frierson, Yonke.
I see this that we're placing more information back into the text, so I vote aye.
All right, so that motion passes.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, commissioners. That's our last action item for the night, but we go into number 8, which is other items. Commissioners, do you have any other items to talk about? Our time goes by fast up here in the commission, so if you ever have any topics we need to discuss, this is a good time to talk about it. Okay, hearing none. Chairman's report, number 9. Thank you, commissioners, for all that you do with your time and effort as you review this information, go around the county. And again, we're volunteers, but everyone's been up here for a while now. I do appreciate everything that you do. This will flip right into our planning director's report. I see we have a date set for a comp plan meeting / training / retreat, whatever we're gonna call it, as soon as next week. So please discuss and give us information.
Yes, based off of the previously sent doodle poll, June 12th, the afternoon seemed to work best. It'll be at 1 o'clock, so it's not a whole day. We're just doing the afternoon on June 12th. It'll be at Midlands Tech Beltline Boulevard in their conference room. So we plan to have a deep dive into the updates to the comprehensive plan, going over the various land use scenarios that were presented at the public meetings to get planning commission's feedback before we present a final land use scenario, AKA the future land use map that will guide decisions related to upcoming rezone requests.
We send out more information to the commission as this approaches, so we know where to go and all
Yes.
of that stuff.
Yes, we'll definitely do that for you. yes.
Reminders. Commissioners, any questions on that? We did send like our scheduling preferences to them, and I know this date has snuck up on us. So I hope everyone can attend, and we do need a quorum for it.
There won't be a vote taken. It would be good to have a quorum, so, you know, when we bring the land use map to you all for review and approval, you fully understand the methods behind it and what went into the updated land use map.
Ms. Price, in the past with offsites, you did like a quorum, but I know it's a public meeting. It goes out, we're meeting.
We still advertise, but as Director Williams stated, since you're not taking any action, a quorum is not necessary.
He's trying to attend though, Commissioner. Sure. Yes.
Should we eat lunch before we attend there?
Good question.
I am working on getting that approval for lunch as well.
Okay. Please send that out in the email.
Once that is finalized tomorrow, I will send the email out before the
Thank
end
you.
of the week.
Awesome. Does that complete our plan director's report? Yes. Thank you. Usually the last page has page 48, our notes from county council. Okay. All right, unless we have any other business, number 11 is adjournment. And that's a lot of everyone's favorite item. All right, we'll do a show of hands as a vote, as a motion for adjournment. I see everyone. Staff, you need to take a vote? So it's official?